an event that preserves that just tight-knit, close community, because people out there really do care about each other, because it's you versus the course, it's you versus your own limits. It's not necessarily you versus the other competitors. All right, let's talk about the Barkley Marathons.
Have fun, good luck!
A race so secretive that this is probably the only time of year that I can even talk about it.
Laz keeps making it harder.
So the Barkley Marathons started about 40 years ago. They were inspired by the prison break of James Earl Ray from Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary,
where last night 7 prisoners escaped, among them James Earl Ray. 7 inmates went over the back wall at the Brushy Mountain Prison around 7:30 last night with a makeshift wire ladder.
But getting out of Morgan County is something else.
And the race still goes under the prison, so it's literally in that same area. And James Earl Ray, he's famous for assassinating Martin Luther King. The race makes fun of him, so before you want to say that it's glorifying him, it made fun of him because in 60 hours he made it about 8 miles.
"Are you hurt?" one guard called out. "No," said James Earl Ray, soaked with sweat and covered in mud after 54 hours on the run. "I'm okay." Those words spelled the end of the biggest manhunt in East Tennessee history.
And as legend goes, Gary Cantrell, the creator of the Barkley Marathon, said, him and his friends could have gone 100 miles in that 60 hours. And so thus the challenge was born. So we created this race that was extremely difficult, and they realized that the first year, where they had books in the woods and they had to navigate around this course, and it was 5 loops to finish 100 miles, and it took 10 years for even the first finisher of the Barkley Marathons. So that's kind of the background. This is in the Tennessee wilderness. It's rugged. There are briars, burrs, everything.
But one only made it 100 yards beyond the facility.
But first, let's talk about what happened this year. So this year, they added in more features to make it harder, because the race is designed for it to be right on the verge of possible. Laz Lake, his alter ego from his real name, Gary Cantrell, so we're going to refer to him as Laz throughout this. He wanted to set up an event, and then later on events, that push people to their limits.
Yes, I found my limit in the summer of 2018.
He finds such beauty in that, and I think we all do, in a time where you can get anything you want from the grocery store pretty much 24/7, that finding a way to find your limit is something almost artistic. It's creative and it's difficult. He also has created the backyard ultra style, where people run for an unknown amount of time and an unknown amount of distance to see who the last person still running is. So we talked to Frank Heelan, actually on the podcast a few months ago, and he talked about this backyard style. We also talked to Shep. We talked to him about the backyard style process as well. So check out those episodes for more on another one of Laz's creations. But Barkley Marathon this year, only one person completed a fun run, and that means you complete 3 loops out of a possible 5 in under 40 hours, but no one even started loop 4. 2 other people, it sounds like, completed or were close to completing 3 loops just in over the time limit. It was a very brutal year from the beginning, where I believe only maybe 7 or 8 people made it on to loop 2. And I actually had the pleasure of attempting the Barkley Marathons back in 2021, and it was a similar year where only 2 people even started loop 3 that year. And so it's just a very hard race, and it gets harder when someone finishes. So everything about it is fluid. So if somebody finishes, then the race gets a little bit harder because it wants to be right on the verge of possible. The goal is to finish, but the beauty is trying to make it as hard as possible where you still have a chance to complete it. And I think I'm going to be referring back to that a lot. So in its history, only 20 different people have completed the Barkley Marathons. A few people have completed it more than once. Jared Campbell, I believe, has 4 finishes. John Kelly has 3 finishes. John Kelly is the one who got the fun run this year. But the real beauty of Barkley is its grassroots and secretive process. So the entry process is completely secret. I'm only going to get into the things that I think I'm allowed to share on here. And you can only really talk about Barkley one time a year, and that's while it's going on and after the fact. And so how you even get updates is Keith Dunn tweets out updates when runners come through, when it starts and stuff. And when I say fluid, so the race, it's going to start in a 12-hour window, but you don't know when. You show up there and they blow a conch shell, and that signals the race will start in 1 hour. The day before is the first chance to look at the course. And by look at the course, it's kind of a crude drawing on a map, the official race map, and you have to copy that down on your own map. And it shows where all the books are. And it has like different turns and stuff, different features, like something like they're all intricately named, like Leonard's Butt Slide, the Meat Grinder, Ball Bearing Hill, Rat Jaw. These are all famous terms, and they're just nicknames for the features on the course. And the course is so hard because it's nearly entirely off trail. So you're navigating through the woods, and the woods are pretty dense, and it's hard to pick out where any landmarks are to use your compass, find bearings and things like that. On top of it, and especially my experience with it, there was fog, so it's hard to see where even other runners are if you're following them. It's also rains a ton. My year, it also rained. So the whole beginning was like a slip and slide. It's the most fun I've ever had doing a race, but it was also so difficult. There was one book that I looked for 90 minutes and it turned out to be just 30 feet away or so, but couldn't find it. And that cost a ton of time, but was able to find all the books out there. It was a really good time. Okay, so the conch goes off. That means you have 1 hour until race start. The day before, you've copied down your map. You have that. You've written out your lines and bearings for your compass, because that's how you're navigating. No electronics other than a headlamp is allowed out there. And then in that hour, you have to go get your race watch. So they buy, probably from Walmart or something, 40 different race watches that are set to race time, which means that when the race starts, it's 0000 basically. And so that is what you use to tell time out there. My year, we got a pocket watch, which was like from the 1800s, like they'd keep in their pocket. That's how we had to tell time out there. I never even pulled it out because it just was so crude and not worth it. And the goal is just efficiency anyways. And a time shouldn't be motivating you to tell how quickly you need to go. And so that's what you do in that period. You get all ready to go. You line up at the start line. He usually gives a little speech and a memorial to Barker's past, I think as he calls it. And then the race starts by lighting a cigarette.
Have fun. Good luck.
And you have your bib number. So mine was 35 the year I did it. And you take off past the yellow gate, famous, it's in Frozen Head State Park, and you charge into the woods. And usually there's a pretty big mass that gets to the first book because people haven't separated. And then this book is being passed around and you tear out the page that corresponds to your bib number. Mine was page 35. So I tore out page 35, and it takes a couple seconds for everyone to flip through, get their page, tear it out, and you're all kind of waiting there. And that's when the race starts to separate and space out because, first person, 10 people behind them, they've got a 30-second lead. So, they're a good tenth of a mile or so past or gone before everyone else is following. So it starts to separate then. And that's when it's truly off trail. You're just trying to navigate. My year, we started at about 2 a.m. So it was completely dark. And you're just charging through underbrush. You're going down hills and you're hoping you're picking the right drainage or hill to go down, because if you get to the bottom and that's not where the book is, then you're going to have to hunt around or go back up, circle around, something like that. It's some running between the books. It's reading clues to figure out where they are. It's hunting around. It's following veterans. It's very fun. And so you do this for 13 books and navigate a loop. They always call the loop 20.00 miles. But why it's called the Barkley Marathons is it's very likely a lot closer to a marathon on each loop than just 20 miles. So you get all your pages in this route. It's very hard to follow, and especially your first year, you're called a virgin. And you get back to the gate and you show all your pages and you get a new bib number because the pages from your old bib number are already torn out if you made it back. So from this new bib number, then you charge off into the woods the opposite direction. So you switch directions, another intricate, difficult thing, and find all your pages the other way. So in that inner loophole period between when you finish the last loop and start the next one, that's the only time you can get aid. So you can have one crew member there helping you out, getting, your new pack, getting set up, ready to charge again. But time is of the essence, especially because this race is designed for right on the verge of possible. People used to be able to sleep a little bit more, and now I don't think there's much room at all for any sleeping, especially judging by John Kelly, who's finished 3 times before, only being able to complete 3 loops out there this year. And so you go, let's call it clockwise on the first loop, then you go counterclockwise, and then you go clockwise if you made it to the 3rd loop, and then you go counterclockwise. And then on the 5th loop, if more than one runner comes in, they go opposite direction. So the first runner would get to choose which way they go. The second runner would have to go the opposite way. So that's really the trick. And by this point, it's been, 48 hours or so, and you're sleep deprived, and you're just trying to fight up against finishing in under 60 hours. And so this is kind of where the fun run, the process, the pacing comes in. So you have 13 hours and 20 minutes, I believe, to complete each loop. But this isn't the pace to finish the whole thing. This is just the pacing to get to a fun run. So there's this built-in buffer that maybe you can get 3 loops in. But so that's why John Kelly finished in 39 hours plus, and he got a fun run, but he was not allowed to go out on his 4th loop, because you have to start that 4th loop in under 36 hours. So that's really the key. A few other things, we're going to kind of jump back and forth here. So the entry fee is $1.60, which is a penny for every mile in the fun run, 60, and a penny for every mile in the Barkley Marathons 100. So $1.60. When you get in the race through a secretive process, you do get a letter of condolence. All these things are out there, public knowledge. I don't want to overstep any of my bounds here. And it basically says, it is with condolences that I inform you that I regrettably inform you that you're in the Barkley Marathon. So it's a pretty funny and cool way to enter into that as well. If you don't get in, there is also called a wait list. So it's spelled WEIGHT, like weights, because it is such a heavy burden to be on this wait list. And it's true. You're like training, not knowing if you're actually going to race. And so that happens. And then also there's this quirky thing where, in addition to your race entry fee, you have to take a test and submit an application. And these test questions are the type of things that don't always have a perfect answer, or they're very obscure, very interesting. I'm sure with the internet, it's got even crazier on what you can find out there. But they go very deep on different questions. I don't want to reveal any of them, but it's just like, you have to really dig, think, and put thought into different things. There's like math, there's history, there's opinion stuff, and it's a very cool aspect. And then if you're a virgin, never attempted the race before, you have to bring a license plate from your home state or country. If you're a veteran who's never finished the race before, you have to show up with a item that they choose. It could be like a pair of tube socks. It could be 12-pack of Moxie soda. It could be a collared shirt, something like that. And if you have completed the race before, if you're a past finisher, you have to show up with a pack of cigarettes. And a cigarette being lit is how the race is started. So kind of checks out, and pretty funny because most of the finishers, I'm sure, have never smoked a cigarette in their life. So the time cutoff is 60 hours, and you have a watch that doesn't really work. You can't use any GPS, just a mapping compass. You can't record anything out there. You can't drop anything, leave anything behind. You can't mark anything. The conditions can become extreme. Navigation is very difficult because if you get off the initial line, it's really hard to find your way back because you don't have any markers or a GPS line that you're pointed back towards. It's just very, very tough. I think a couple different documentaries that you should check out are Where Dreams Go to Die, and that's on YouTube, I believe, and The Race That Eats Its Young. Someone said it's on Peacock, but you'll just have to look it up. That one is from one of the earlier Barkley Marathons, and I don't want to spoil either of them. Also, Carl Sabe, there's a film about him out there. I can't remember the name of it, but that's worth checking out as well. And so what does it take to finish? Well, judging by this year, a lot. It needs to be nearly perfect conditions. Usually the weather is the main player in this thing because it is just so difficult to manage and get up and down these hills. They're like 40+% with no trail. And, there's very heavy underbrush. There's a bunch of briars. You've seen images or probably seen images of people incredibly cut up from trying to just navigate the course. The underbrush and the leaves are pretty thick and deep, so it's hard. You're trudging through those. And if you get lost, it's just really tough. And so it's like, what are you doing out there when you're just like kind of bopping around for 12 hours trying to find books? Well, you have such anxiety in wanting to be on the track and headed towards the next book all the time that time flies by. It feels like a minute feels like a second. An hour feels like a minute. It's just like you're bleeding time everywhere. Even just a loss, like a wrong bearing or taking the wrong vector or path towards a book, that could cost you 10 minutes. And if you do that on every book, you've lost over 2 hours in that loop. So that's why that efficiency and finding the books and navigating is so important. And then not charging out so fast that you make a wrong turn and exacerbate that wrong turn by going too far the wrong way. So it really is about mental toughness and improvisation. Even navigation skills matter a lot more than pure running ability. And that's what makes it so unique. And 100-miler with the 60-hour cutoff, like that's so slow, but it's so hard because you're navigating with nothing and you're off trail. You're bushwhacking. If you've ever done like a scramble or something like that, you're moving at a mile an hour or two. It's not that dissimilar from the Barkley. And another thing is it's so hard for virgins because they've never seen the course. You can't go train on the terrain. You can only do the trails that are established in Frozen Head State Park. So even the training aspect is very difficult. It's a lot of vert, a lot of work at nighttime. It's figuring out how to use a map and compass efficiently. So I think that's the really difficult thing and how it doesn't really compare to hard races like even Cocodona or Hard Rock, because those are marked courses. There's tracking. There's no tracking. There's no checking in, no live stream. There's only a Twitter account to see how people are doing. And when you're out there, the term is 100% self-extraction rate. And that really means that every single person who has quit, failed, even gotten hurt, has gotten themselves back to the campground. Some people have ended up on highways. One person made a wrong turn and ended up at an abandoned church the year I did it, which was like across a river from where we were supposed to be. So it's just incredible, the stories that come out of it. And what's so intriguing is because it's something designed to push you right to the limits. Like, do you think you can complete it? Hopefully going in you do, but it's so hard. He's made this process that it gets harder as people complete it. Like last year, 5 people completed it. So added in a little bit of difficulty so that it was going to be harder for someone to complete it this year, because the true power in completing it is doing something right on the verge of possible, or showing up and continuing to go for it while you don't know if you're going to actually make it. I think that's what it's designed to do, is make you question everything and anything out there, but keep going. So that's what's really special about the entire event. Also, Laz himself, he's attempted it in the early days. He's never completed it, but he's run across the country. He attempted to run across the country last year. He made it about halfway across to Oklahoma. So he does also enjoy finding his limit and engaging in hard things as well. He's not just a masochist who puts this out there too, but he really does root for finishers and root for people once you're out there, but he doesn't want to make it like a cupcake or too easy for somebody to do. And so that's really what his beauty and the nature of what he brings to the sport. He was inducted into the Ultra Running Hall of Fame, or Trail Running Hall of Fame, I believe last year too, which is also special. But going back and finishing on this year, we had a few people, make it through loop 1, but their times kept falling. So that's the trick. You go one direction and some of the courses new, even if you're a veteran, because they added in a new section, and then you have to go the opposite way. You're more tired. You're hitting some of this at night, depending on when you're out there. And that's where the time just bleeds away, the navigating and everything. And people got back over 25 hours this year for that second loop finish, which put them at 12.5 hour pace per loop, which just makes it so hard. You can't really make up time in the Barkley Marathons because the longer you're going, the slower you're moving and the harder it is, and you're losing kind of your mental sharpness and navigating out there. And so that's where if you fall behind kind of that pace, you don't really have a chance. I believe John Kelly said on the first loop that it was going to take a near perfect execution for somebody to finish Barkley this year. And as we can see by only him finishing a fun run, nobody was able to complete that near perfect execution out there. All right, I hit some of the things of Barkley. I thought I would just do a shorter podcast letting people in on what kind of is involved in the thing, but I can't reveal too much. Only 40 people a year get into it. It's very hard. Another fun fact is there's always a virgin sacrifice. So it's a new runner who maybe doesn't have all the qualifications of some of the people that get in, but they put them in, they give them bib number 1 as they do not expect this person to finish or do well. So it's also messes with your mind if you end up getting bib number 1 out there and are deemed the human sacrifice. And so that's sort of the beauty of it. Hope you enjoyed this listen. This is kind of one of my favorite races out there because it's so interesting, creative, and unique. And I love creativity. So this and all podcasts are brought to you by janji.com, janji.com. I wore one of their sun hoodies and shorts actually in my race last weekend. And it worked really good because it has so many pockets. That's really the beauty of Janji. The pockets and sun hoodies are just awesome. Love them. Check them out. They just are releasing their spring summer line. So lots more stuff dropping every couple weeks over there at that site. And tell them I sent you. The other sponsor is Garage Your Own Gear, marketplace for anything you need to be outdoors. They have even Norda shoes on there, headlamps. I used a headlamp from there at the start of the race. So check out garagegrowngear.com. All right, that is all I have for today. Barkley Marathons, truly fascinating and an event that preserves that just tight-knit, close community because people out there really do care about each other because it's you versus the course. It's you versus your own limits. It's not necessarily you versus the other competitors. Last year, Jasmine Paris became the first woman to finish the Barkley Marathons. And we just saw how they unlocked this new intrigue, interest, and really showing that it was possible for a woman to do it. And that's the beauty of the Barkley Marathon, showing what is possible and what is beyond you think is possible, and showing that to a number of people. So it's always a fine line of balancing the secretiveness of Barkley and wanting to maintain its roots and keep things going in that respect, but also using it to inspire people to push right up near the edge. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. This is the Free Outside Podcast. Your host, Jeff Garmeyer. Stay elite, my friends. Oh, also, they play Taps, the song, when you fail. Like you get back over the cutoff or you have to walk back to camp. You miss one of the books, something like that. They play Taps. So I'm going to take us out by playing a clip of when they played Taps when I lost at the Barkley Marathons. Stay elite, my friends.